Why are we in lockdown? Because COVID-19 keeps entering the country. From where? Not from Kobo sprinkling it on us. It's coming through the porous borders. But they say our borders are going to be sealed in July. Because these two cutlass things reaching that Rowley and Smallpin by, they're reaching in July. So forget March 22nd last year. Forget 16 months coming forward in the pandemic. Forget that in May over 115 people dead already. Forget how many cases we have in. Forget that our people seem to be deading like flies quicker than anywhere else in the world. Our rate of mortality, I don't know. Like we deading like Ferrari mashing gas around the hills of Monaco. But don't worry. Talbot says the cutlass vessels are coming in July. But here the problem too. What about the procurement of these things? Smallpin said that these, and Rowley said, it's a government-to-government relationship. That Rowley met with the Prime Minister of Australia, who has absolutely nothing to do with Austal. Austal is a wholly, solely, privately owned shareholder company. The government of Australia owns no shares whatsoever in Austal. But Rowley and Smallpin come and tell you and the whole country, and the media allow them to say that it's a government. The government and the Prime Minister of Australia alerted Keith Rowley to the presence of Australian warships for Coast Guard. And therefore it's a government to government. But here's where the mistake was made. Stuart Smallpin Young talk out of time and over talk. And he said that why this was a government to government was that the government of Australia made grant funding available to the government of Trinidad and Tobago for the purchase of the two cutlass vessels. Grant funding is funding that does not have to be repaid. Grant funding is not loan financing. Grant funding will mean that these two cutlass vessels were purchased on a government-to-government relation. But without the grant funding, you have a problem. Because you can't say that they were government to government if you just borrow money from Australia to pay back at an interest rate. That's not government to government. That's frank comment. We borrow money. We can borrow money from anywhere and pay it back. But listen to this. And I am asking Talbot, wherever you are. Talbot, did we really get grant funding from the government of Australia, Talbot? Or did we, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, take a full Australian loan from the foreign Australian Exim Bank that we, the citizens, have to pay back? A grant and a loan is two different things, Talbot. And listen to what your Smallpin, bastion of honesty, integrity, and brilliance said. Please play Smallpin.
The Prime Minister of Australia also informed the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago that the timing was good because Australian government had just taken a decision to have a military grant to other nations for the purchase of any military type equipment, which would include these Cape Class vessels, from Australia, a special military grant. So therefore, the government of Australia is the entity that first alerted the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to these possibilities.
Now y'all hold that video. I want you to play it once more, because I know some of y'all are going, what is this? Because let me read for you from Newsday Section A, Saturday, May 15th. Just Saturday gone here. A press release printed here from the Office of the Prime Minister, which is the office of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, which is the office of Dr. Rowley, who went down there to Australia, met with CEOs, drink scotch and eat shrimps with Smallpin, and then buy 2 ferry plus 2 cutlass vessels. Now, Smallpin just spoke there about grant funding, military grant funding from the government of Australia. But in this release, Saturday, May 15th, 2021, page 11 Newsday, the OPM reminded the population the genesis of this development was on May 24, 2018, when the Prime Minister Minister in the office of the Prime Minister, now Energy Minister Stuart Young, and then Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Minister Dennis Moses met with the Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and then the Foreign Minister Julie Bishop to discuss the procurement and financing of the vessels using their Export Financing Corporation, EFIC, and the Australian Defence Force Fund. Speaking in Parliament in January 2019, the Prime Minister said the Cabinet decided to buy the 2 Cape-class vessels on July 26, 2018. That decision also involved acquiring 2 fast ferries, catamarans for domestic sea bridge, one from Austral and the other from Incat. So question to Ethelbert, you in the seat now. How much grant funding was received from the Australian government for the purchase of these 2 Cutlass Coast Guard military vessels? How much? And to the Australian High Commission, you all get ready? Because when Ethelbert lie, I come in to ask all you, so prepare your answer. To the Australian High Commissioner, to the Australian government, to the Australian people working here in Trinidad and Tobago, please let the population know by press release how much grant funding, because I'm sure you will be proud to know, to tell us that you have helped Trinidad and Tobago so much with 50 million Australian, 70 million Australian, 100 million Australian, however much grant funding that you gave to keep our people safe. I am sure you would want to boast about that. I mean, we boast about putting up tent. So I am sure that if you gave us grant military funding of the millions of Australian dollars, you would let us know. And to my Trinbagonian citizens, if you find out that there was no grant funding, what say you? Run the clong again, you know. Run the small pin again, you know. Run him. Run the small pin. Run him.
The Prime Minister of Australia also informed the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago that the timing was good because Australian government had just taken a decision to have a military grant to other nations for the purchase of any military type equipment, which would include these Cape-class vessels, from Australia, a special military grant. So therefore, the government of Australia is the entity that first alerted the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to these possibilities.
And so the Australian government is also the first entity that alerted the Prime Minister to the possibilities of buying 2 Cutlass military vessels while he and Smallpin was drinking scotch and eating shrimps in Australia. So not the Coast Guard did an audit of their systems, their equipment, their vessels, did a search of all different various types of vessels available internationally from all shipbuilders, and said in a note to the Ministry of National Security, we have searched all shipmakers, shipbuilders across the globe, from the USA, Canada, Finland, Iceland, Germany, come down, and we have seen that the Cape-class vessels from Australia are what we need, and we hereby put in a request for 4 of these vessels, 3 of these vessels, 2 of these vessels. Nothing like that, you know. Just Rowley and that clown went down and said, I say, hey, boy, look, give me 2 of that, yes? And when they say 2 of that, and they reach back here, they tell the man, go and say, oh, they like that. And they go on and say, yes, man, we like that. Just like they come and say, they use 100 hours, 1,000 hours of vessel work in 8 days. Right? That is the kind of thing going on in Trinidad and Tobago in our face, and we take that. So, Ethelbert, over to you. Please alert, and to all members of the media, take the question now. And they don't want no credit for no question. All you ask the question for the people now. Ask the question. Ethelbert, the vessels are reaching in July. How much grant funding? Grant, not general grant. Okay? Grant funding was given from the government of Australia. And then members of the media asked the Australian High Commissioner, or thank them first of all, say thank you for your grant funding. We just want to know how much was it. You see? Thank you.